Hi everyone, back at the fishing lakes again, this time to check on one of the colonies that you may have seen in some of the previous videos, where we had originally set up a nuke with a queen cell, which is taken from a colony that had swarmed. The queen cell was successful, the queen emerged, mated and started laying. We then united several nukes because we needed those queens for other queenless colonies, and so we combined maybe two or three or four nukes into one colony, and hopefully they've settled down. The queen that we left in that colony is hopefully laying well. And as you can possibly see behind me, we've got forage for them. The blackberries actually are almost over here in Norfolk, but there's still lots of other forage available at this 4th of July point in the year. So if you're watching this in the States, happy belated Independence Day. And we need to know, just go in, make sure that they've got enough room, that the super is hopefully filling up with some nectar, which they're turning into honey, and really it's just a continuation of some of the videos that we've done in the past. We have got lots more content. If you'd like to catch up with what we've been up to, do take a look at our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/Norfolk Honey, and there you can find lots more of our video content, our podcasts, and also some photographs and the like that we've been taking as the season has progressed. It's been a very odd year so far. Today it's very windy, it's quite a blustery day, as you can probably tell by the noise that's being blown over from the main road that's behind the camera here. But it is actually a little bit warmer today, so we're able to get in and do some inspecting, whereas the past few days it's been really cold. We've not inspected at all. So let's get the smoker lit, bee suits on, and we'll go through into the apiary and see how this colony is performing. This is our colony, and for those of you that haven't seen the previous videos, and obviously I'd encourage you to go back and have a look at them. We started with a couple of frames, one with a queen cell. That queen emerged and mated successfully, and we had several others. There's a hive behind me that we've also changed from a nuke into a full-size hive, and we needed to use some of the queens for some other colonies that were queenless, larger colonies, so we introduced those into those queenless colonies, and then we were left with several queenless nukes. And actually what we decided to do was, rather than try to produce yet more queen cells, so we put them all together in one brood box with an existing queen. And just a few days ago I came over and put this super on top. It was a drawn super, so by that I mean the combs were already drawn out foundation from a previous season, and you can hopefully see that the bees are filling this with nectar, turning it into honey. So they're working really well in this super. We'll have a look through the super after we've checked out the brood box, and just lifting that off, there's actually quite a reasonable amount of weight in there. So that's been on there for about a week now, so I'm really happy with that. You can see we've got a queen excluder on, and as I kneel beside the hive, I'm actually just looking at the adult bees that I can see, just making sure that they all look healthy, which they do. And we can take this off. For the beginners out there, it's always worth just turning the queen excluder over and just checking the bottom to make sure that the queen isn't present. More often than not, the queen isn't on, that queen excluder, but the one time that you don't flip it over and look is the time that inevitably the queen's on there. You put it beside the super and she runs off and goes into the super. So again, looking at the bees that I can see here, they all look fine. They all look good and healthy. So we can start going through to see exactly what's happening with these frames. So more stores going into this first frame. So I'm just going to lean that up against the front of the hive in the grass here. The bees are pretty calm, so no need to use lots of smoke. And I'll take it nice and slowly so that you can see what's going on. Now, some of these frames, as I mentioned, are from different colonies, different nukes. So we'll have a situation where they're not all going to match up, as it were, with the next frame, although they have been in for a week to 10 days now, 10 days probably, so they ought to be reasonably settled. Nice frame with brood all capped and looking really healthy. And what we're hoping is that we can use this colony to take to the heather moors when we go up to the North York moors to see if we can produce some heather honey this year. So we're looking to build them up into a strong colony, another good frame of brood, looking really healthy. If I flip it round, it's pretty much the same on the other side. So that's good to see. I think the last time we shot a video with this colony, I was going to take the queen out and use her in one of the other queenless colonies, but I couldn't find her, so we moved on to one of the others. Let me just move that smoker because it's going really well. So in this frame, I think what we'll do is we'll bring the camera in close because we've got a good example of eggs in cells, and it'll be helpful, I think, for anyone out there that's struggling to see eggs, if we can just get a close-up view of what an egg in a cell looks like. So we'll bring the camera in and show you a close-up of some of these cells. So hopefully what you can see in the cells here are the tiniest of little eggs nestled into the bottom of the cell. And I think I've mentioned this before, the description that people sometimes use is that it looks like a grain of rice. And I've had a couple of conversations recently where people have said that when they finally saw the eggs, they were far smaller than a grain of rice. Well, absolutely they are. I think what people refer to is the shape of the egg rather than the size of the grain of rice. So what we're looking at is a really tiny little egg that is shaped like a grain of rice, and hopefully what we're recording now will allow you to see that. And you might also see some larvae nearby, but hopefully we've given you a good clear picture of what eggs look like. So we'll pop this frame back in and then go through the rest of the colony. So we'll carry on looking through the colony. Now we've got two frames here that are obviously different from the others. Now these aren't self-spacing, so we're going to move these to the outside of the brood box. And the reason for that is because I want to swap these out at some point. But again, looking at the frame, we've got lots of brood. You can probably see that there's quite a lot of nectar coming in as well, which is great. So we'll be able to see that nectar go up into the supers, and then these cells will be cleaned out, and hopefully the queen will continue to lay in them. So what I'm going to do is just move some of these frames in, so we can pop this frame to the outside. And now that we're moving that to the outside, once it's empty of brood, we'll be able to remove it. Here again, another same type of frame, just having a quick look. So the queen has laid eggs in this frame. Doesn't matter, we can still move it to the outside. Moving frames around in the summer is no real problem. It's only in the spring where we have these sudden drop in temperature that can cause issues, and we end up with brood getting chilled. But at this time of the year, and even though the temperatures are not fantastic, it's still warm enough for the colony to tend all of the brood that they've got. Now the queen is on this frame. She's just wandered from my side onto the side facing the camera. She's here, one of this year's queens, so she's marked with a green dot. And we'll move this frame to the outside as well. So we'll just reposition some of these frames. And then we'll be able to get this frame in at the side. A little smoke. And then we can continue to move through our inspection, give ourselves a little bit of room and take out the next frame, which again has lots of eggs in it. So the queen is laying really well. Lots of eggs around this bottom section where the brood has emerged as adult workers, and the queen has then laid into those cells, and the same on the side that's facing me. Just 3 frames to go now, and the colony's looking really strong, and I'm really pleased that they've done so well, because we're, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking to move this colony to the heather, and what I'd really like is 9 or even 10 frames of brood in this colony, with lots of bees ready to forage the heather moors. So far I think we're looking set for just that situation to develop, and that will be in around 3 weeks time now, so not long at all. The queen has laid in this frame as well, lots more eggs, and everything's looking really good. The final frame in this brood box I've just looked down at is actually full of food stores, so I can show you that one. So if we take that super away, once they've filled it up full of food, I know that the bees have got plenty of food. This is all honey from the spring, and we're not going to leave our bees in a position where they could starve because we've taken all the food away. So, okay, all that remains is for us to just close these frames up closer together, and then we'll have a look in the super, and who knows, we might even need to add another super perhaps. move these frames across. So these frames that I'm moving at the moment don't have the self-spacing sidebars, so I just have to be a little bit careful about the position. Now you'll see on this frame we've got a lot of bees that have congregated on the top of the frame, so I'm just going to shake those off, and that will just make it easier for me to put this frame back in without rolling lots of bees and crushing bees as we put that frame back in, and they soon settle back down. Right, our queen excluder goes back on, and we can now get the super back on and have a look at each of these frames. So our super is gradually filling up with honey. I'm just going to work my way through. You'll probably see that we've got 8 frames here. So this is an 8-frame Langstroth super. Really, you need to be using this with drawn comb. If you use it with foundation, 8-frame spacing is probably a little bit too far for the bees to work the foundation across in a flat form. What tends to happen, as I've found to my cost, is that the bees will just stitch foundation sheet to foundation sheet and go their own way, and inevitably you then have to cut that out and start all over again. So if you start with 10 frames of foundation, and then you can go down to 9, and then if you wanted to you could go to 8. So let's have a little look through and see what's happening. So nectar coming in, nothing capped off yet. Now the spacing on these frames is such that we can just lift them straight out without worrying too much about the bees. Now they're starting to cap the honey over here, which is great, and it looks like there's quite a bit of blackberry coming in, which is no real surprise. It's quite a nice golden colour. It helps, of course, that there's a mass of blackberries just behind me that I can see them foraging on. But there's also some lighter nectar coming in, so we're not too sure where that's coming from. There are some lime trees locally as well, so it could be that there's some lime that's been foraged. So that's 3, this is number 4. Remarkable, of course, that this is just a week of forage. Well, these have left an area on this particular frame, and the reason for that, if I just pull the next frame out, and this is one of the issues that you can have with this kind of 8-frame setup, is that they've started to draw comb across this frame. So even though this was drawn comb, you can see that they have started to attach a section across to the frame adjacent to it. So that is one of the issues. Now hopefully they'll just carry on and get that filled. If they do bridge that again and fill it with honey, it's not a problem. We'll just end up cutting that off, and it will go in our appy melter and get rendered down. A nice heavy frame of honey. You can see we've got the top of this frame is being capped, so that's quite nice to see. That's all good. Now I don't think that I would be tempted at the moment to let's just swap these back because I've forgotten to put this other frame back in. I don't think I'd be tempted to put another super on this week. I think what I'll do is I'll wait for them to pull this out a little bit more fillet and cap more of these frames before we add another one. They have left a section just in here which looks as if they're anticipating the queen is going to come up and lay some eggs in there, but when she doesn't, they'll fill that with nectar. And then the last two, and you can see the bees are working on it quite nicely, which is terrific. And then our final frame at the end, again, it's been drawn out nicely. So where we have previously cut the cappings off and extracted, they've then repaired that, and they're now getting it to its maximum extent. So feeder back on, and then the roof on, and that's a jolly good inspection. So I'm really pleased with the way that's gone. This colony was a nuke in the spring, brand new queen. As you can see, we've now got 8 frames of brood and eggs, brood in all stages, and I think they're going to do really well over the next few weeks, and then on to the heathermore, and we'll make a note of this particular colony and perhaps follow it through to the heathermoors and see how they perform there. I hope you're enjoying the videos. If you want to catch up with more content, then do take a look at our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Norfolk Honey. But if not, we'll be posting a few more videos here on YouTube as the season progresses, and I hope to catch up with you then. If you have any questions, then do pop them beneath the video, but if not, we'll catch up next time. Thanks for watching.